Greetings, fellow members of the applicant camp. Rodamont here. Thank you for tuning in to Bladesong. Episode 3, An Attack Upon the Camp. Alright, Lockin is offering old tools, steel, and that's a 6. He wants a sharp, stiff blade. Owen wants a mobile, sharp blade. Is offering silver, leather, steel. Willem, 2 old tools. Now I have 10 points, so I could do like a 4 and a 5 together and have some salvage left over. And that might be good bang for my buck. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So let's take Willem's contract. So he wants something with impact, which means weight at the point. So if you mouse over, how hard the sword hits. A sword hits hardest when it's heavy and has a lot more mass near the point. So I am going to make him a very interesting looking blade as a result. So, taper width. From here, I'll reverse it. And as you can see, the point is wider than the blade itself. So it has a weighted point, good for impact. But the point itself also needs to be narrow. A bit of a contradiction, but I'll have a narrow point at the tip that's heavy. Oh, maybe I need to make it a little bit bigger. There we go. So now it has a narrow point, but also very heavy impact because it's got this like broad tip here. Let's do the cross section. And I think a sword like this should look kind of rounded. So I'm going to add sort of a convex shape to it to retain some impact and also to increase the sharpness. There we go. It needs to be two-handed. So let's... And then he also requests that it has 2 parts from Smith's Companion. So the cell guard. And then... Can I... Oh yeah, I could scale it. So now that we have scaling, when I want a two-hander, instead of adding 2 wooden handles, I can just extend the one. Well, let's go and give it a less tapered look. A mild taper instead. There we go. And then the pommel should be a Smith's Companion as well. Perfect. Let's change the polish level of this to sort of more dull to match the blade. Eventually you get the ability to and I'll do a fine wood. Wood is wood. It doesn't really matter if you pick fine or plain. It's all the same. And here we go. We've got Willem's blade. I'll call it a claymore. And this meets all of his requirements. Now, needless to say, later on in the game, you'll have a lot more requirements to meet. So there'll be requirements for like weight, balance, impact, and mobility all at once. And you have to sort of finely tune a blade to exactly match the customer's requests. In this case, you know, I don't have to do that because it's really only impact and blade length and, you know, the fact that it's two-handed narrow point and Smith's Companion, but it gets harder over time. Or at least more elaborate, I should say. There we go. And we're almost level 4. Now we have old tools. I have 6 action points left over. And we were planning on taking Corthon's request here, which means I'm also going to salvage one of these tools. So in the case that you start a blade and then you run out of steel, you can put that blade on hold as you procure, or really any material. You can put the weapon on hold as you procure more material, either through going to the scrap peddler or salvaging extra parts, as long as you have additional action points, so on and so forth. So if you ever find yourself completely out of materials, there are solutions for that. So if we took, because I only have 22 steel left, if we took like Locken's contract and he requested, you know, a full steel handle and grip and hilt and pommel, I might not have enough to meet the needs, but that doesn't stop me from going over to the scrap peddler and buying up the materials that I lack. In this case, that won't likely be the case because this blade only starts with 9, so it's going to be pretty small. Or very highly mobile, so it's going to be a very thin blade. Alright, so this needs to be a long blade, but high mobility. So high mobility means how easy it can be repositioned to defend or change stance, which means it's most mobile when it's light and has little weight in the hilt area. But he's also requesting like a one-handed, very long blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this blade the bare minimum of length to retain some mobility. There we go. So it is exactly as short as he will allow it for mobility's sake. And then hammer it pretty small so that it is narrow, and that will help with mobility as well. I might as well just slap on the guard, the grip, and the pommel now. And I'm scaling these down to be as light as possible as well with my scaling ability. And right now mobility is 3.4 and it needs to hit at least a 3, so we're obviously there. So now I just need to finish up this blade so it has an arrow point and, you know, ideally is sharp. But as you can see, that was not too hard to do. So a narrow point. And let's add sharpness. And for mobility's sake, we can also add it to become a little concave, because he apparently doesn't care about its sharpness. And making it more concave will shave off even more weight. But in this case, if I make it convex, it adds stiffness and doesn't really sacrifice the weight too much, or the mobility too much, as you can see. There we go. I like this blade. It's super, super, super simple, but it meets Quorthon's requirements. Quorthon's blade. So one-handed, narrow point, 2 smith companions, high mobility, and longer. Done. And we're level 4, and we have to take the asymmetrical blades. It's the only option now. So unlocking that. We've got 1 action point left over, which we will salvage one of these old tools for steel. And we're up to 29 steel. So we don't have a lot of steel, wood, or leather left, but we do have a lot of coins. So what I think I'm going to do is head over to the scrap peddler, survey his wares, and buy the Twisted Steel book so that we have more parts to work with. He also has alabaster pigment, which I'll buy as well. Sounds pretty cool. All right. End day. We'll head over to the outer gate. The outer gate looms over the camp, both threat and beacon. Refugees gather, pleading for entry, while impassive guards look on. Approach the gate. The guard is slouching against the ramparts, gazing out over the horizon. His heavy-lidded eyes flicker your way only when you call for his attention. Huh? What do you want? The guard's sneer is especially pronounced in this evening. I want to enter the keep. You a citizen? You got yourself a worker's permit? No, but I'd like to apply for a worker's permit. I'm a blacksmith, and I've been plying my trade out here a while now. Yeah, and I'm a dragon slayer. Get out of here, applicant. Head back to your tent. You return to your tent, where your makeshift forge awaits. You're hardly at your best, working with such limited materials, but it's all you have for the time being. All right. We probably want to salvage the old tools, these as well, for the steel. And then we could... So here's a mystery reward. And another mystery reward. This only gives empty tankards, which is good for wood. So let's take Locken's contract for a ruined helmet, which will also salvage for a good amount of steel, and a mystery reward. That sounds interesting. Oh, I should have read this. Hold on. A young man paces relentlessly near your anvil, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He wears a pack on his back and chews at a long stalk of grass. I can't stay here any longer, Smith, wasting away, begging for scraps, watching people turn into animals. This ain't living. He gestures towards the wastelands stretching beyond the camp. Out there, where there's real opportunity, there's where the real opportunities are. Old ruins, abandoned settlements, treasures from before the collapse. The crows, they will eat well. Crows? That's what folks call, that's what the folks of Eren Keep call them, from what I've heard. Folks who wander the wastes, scavenging and doing mercenary work, carving out a living out of the chaos. Trust me, kid, surviving out there is even harder than surviving here. Staying here is just a slow death anyway. At least this way, I control my own fate. You've only been hearing the tales of those who survive. Most die hungry and alone. Better to die free in an open sky than to rot away in this miserable camp. At least out there, a man's got a chance to make his own fortune. What do you need of me? Something sharp to deal with whatever I might find out there. Raiders, wild beasts, or worse. So high impact and sharp. And let's make him a longer sword than I've been making most, to the maximum length that he requests. He also wants a hand and a half, so wants a bastard sword. Which makes sense to make this longer. So this is a 51% length. Perfect. All right, if he wants it sharp with impact, that probably means wide, so that there's still weight. What we can do is we can give him like a really interesting taper. So I'm going to make it narrow here, and then put a taper let's delete this taper and do that again. I'm going to do an asymmetrical taper. It's going to be real weird looking, but I want it. Let's do it all the way to the end, actually. Okay, and that's going to help with the impact that he requests. Then for the cross-section, I'm going to do an asymmetrical cross-section to only sharpen one end of the blade, sharpening it here. And he is requesting that it is particularly sharp, so let's go ahead and change its width again. A little wider and less thick. And there it meets the sharpness and impact, as it is like a machete-ish, if you will. Now, he wants a regular point. Let's put one on. But I'm going to make it pretty narrow, because a long regular point would affect the impact. So right now the impact's 2.7, and the sharpness is 3.3. It's still pretty mobile, and it has decent stiffness, so it's not going to fall apart. And this is the first asymmetrical blade we've made, because obviously it only has one edge. So for the other edge, I'm going to do a cross-section on the other side. And I'm not sharpening the other side, I'm kind of rounding it out. That way, the spine of the blade is rounded, and then the edge of the blade is sharp. It's a bush blade, yeah. I mean, that's a good way of putting it. So he also wants it with a smith's companion. So I'll give him a guard. And then a hand and a half. So given a hand and a half, we'll give him a strong taper oval and drag this to hand and a half length. What? There we go. That's a hand and a half length. Perfect. And then, if he's going to be... Let's see. I want to give it a ring. A ring is really low weight, so it's a lighter blade for him to use. And then in this case, we can maybe for the first time use some leathers. So I'll give him a really low polished, smooth leather or structured leather grip. A real sort of cutthroat mercenary blade, if you will. Lockin's Cutlass. There you go, Lockin. And this, we're only starting to get into the complexities that you can build in, obviously. But yeah, we're starting to do asymmetrical blades and scaled parts and asymmetry. The options are like nearly endless. It's crazy. He sheathes the sword and shoulders his pack, looking over the camp with its smoked whips and small sullen faces and coughing echoes. Wish me luck. Good luck out there, Crow. Mark my words, if I strike it rich, I'll come back and buy us both passage into Eren Keep. And I got 2 ruined helmets. That was the mystery, was another ruined helmet. So I'm going to salvage one of these for 4 steel. That's not a lot. I'm very low on steel, but I'm out of action points. So we'll have to work that out tomorrow. We'll have to do some salvage. I am going to... Let's go to the Lost City. Nicknamed the Lost City, these crumbling districts have been picked over by countless looters. Search for valuables. You come across a counting house. So this is the counting house that we were at before. And we're going to look elsewhere because I don't really have the toughness to try to move a stone as big as a man. A forlorn residence hall catches your eye. Its once bright windows are empty as the eyes of a skull. Search the residence hall. The hall is mostly stripped bare. No censers, no silver candlesticks. Your footsteps echo oddly in this silent chamber where the songs of creation once rang clear for all to hear. Something makes you pause. An inscription on the floor, written in an ancient language. Translate the inscription. Success. The inscription is written in Old Nurian, the semi-secret language of the Anointed. You're hardly fluent, but you're able to translate the words stone and heart. That likely refers to the hall's foundation stone, which lies nearby. Feeling around its base, you discover a hidden lever. The stone slides aside, revealing a small chamber containing the offering box. You received one ornate box. Find your way back to the outskirts. For a moment, you think you've lost your way, but then you spot a fountain you recognize. Head back to the camp. Open the ornate box. We got money. Awesome. All right. I would like to head over to the scrap peddler and buy some more books. Let's buy the heavy hand book. and the modular thinking book. Alright, we don't actually have enough steel to start some of these blades, so before we even consider these contracts, let's take a look at them. Mystery Reward, Pendant, Tinkered, and a book. I like books, so I really would like to take Brian's contract if I can. So, let's get some more steel so we can do that. So I'm going to salvage these old tools. For 19 steel. Perfect. Awesome. Alright, Brian. So you want a sharp with at least a little bit of impact. Got it. And this is for a hunter. So maybe we'll use some of the new parts that we can use. So for sharpness, we'll make it wider, and that will help to retain its impact. Oops. Back to cross-section. And edge thickness. There we go. It's almost as sharp as he wants it. Let's lower the width a little bit. I mean the thickness, rather. Alright, so now it is 3 impact and 3.4 sharpness. It needs to be one-handed with a narrow point, with a twisted steel part on it. So narrow point, I'm going to make it a long narrow point. Okay. Actually, you know what? Let's try a asymmetrical narrow point. So 1 and 2. There we go. Kind of looks like a bloodletting dagger, which is, you know, maybe good for a hunter. Alright, so he wants a twisted steel part on it, which could be these Quillian blocks. So maybe we'll scale one up. Perfect. And put it in. So certainly no real guard on it. But you know what else we could do? Is we could add a little flare to this thing so that it can actually block something. There we go. And then it needs to be a one-handed grip. And given that this guy's a hunter, we'll give him a structured leather grip that's shiny. The grip might be too... well, I guess it's fine. And then the pommel. We'll do a ring pommel as well. Scale that down, make it cheaper. But this time, I'm going to even put an end cap on it. At the back of the pommel. So let's do... a barrel end... no, just a twisted steel end cap. Alright. It's a interesting, wide, asymmetrical blade, but it meets Brian's requirements. Brian's blade. And we got the Practical Salvager book. And we leveled up. So I'm going to have you decide how we spend that level up. But the Practical Salvager lets us put like a peen claw and attachment nails and chain elements to parts, which is making them look more scrappy, like junkers. Alright, so skill points. Left would be sword part bending. Sword part bending allows you to sort of drag and adjust sword parts to make them more curved or bent. Engraver allows you to engrave symbols onto swords, and you gain more symbols as you gain books. So I believe I already have an engraving book. Yes, I do have an engraving book already for like TBEML, NDO, etc. And then to the right, we have curved blades, allowing you to add a curvature in a blade, like a katana, falchion, etc. Or fuller, which allows you to have an etched out inside, like for Viking blades and the like. So you guys can choose what style blade we go, how we spend our skill point, rather. All right, I have one action point left, and because we have almost no steel, I'm going to go ahead and salvage the ruined helmet. 4 steel. Wow, that was not a lot. So I have almost no wood, almost no leather, and very little steel. Which means I'm going to visit the scrap peddler and buy old tools and 5 leather and 5 wood. So now I have almost no money, but I'm going to sell 3 units of gold as well. Because we've been getting gold through the commissions we've been taking, but we haven't really been using them. And it looks like you guys want right side. So for the right side, I'm going to choose curved blades. Unlock the ability to add a curvature to the blade. And let's end the day. As you bury your tools for the night, never can be too careful. You hear a heart-piercing scream. You find the camp in chaos. Figures run back and forth, knocking down tents, wailing, stumbling. The sun has just slipped below the horizon, and darkness begins to fall. As you search for the cause of the panic, there's a sickening thud. A corpse has fallen from the sky and landed atop your bonfire, quenching it instantly. Look to the sky. A winged shadow circles above, blotting out the emerging stars. It lets loose a shriek that turns your bowels to water. Identify the threat. Success. Judging by its screaming cry, this is a Vulgoth, a nocturnal predator, and among the worst monsters that the war unleashed on the world. They sleep for months, then wake in a feeding frenzy. Their subsequent feasts can depopulate an entire village. The whole camp is in terrible danger. You also know that they hunt by following sound and movement. If you stay quiet and still, you should be safe. Somewhere around the camp are drawing swords and trying to organize a defense. You recognize the recently forged blades among those waving in the air. The creature's first dive is repelled by blades jabbing at its scything limbs. But it's too fast, too massive. It retreats to the air and then swoops down elsewhere, targeting other defenseless prey. Watch helplessly. It descends on a fleeing woman, its jagged forelimbs plucking up the doomed soul. The beast ascends. A few minutes later, the victim's carcass splatters on the ground. Encourage people to remain still and silent. You rush around the camp, grabbing survivors and shaking them free of terror's grip. You direct them to quieten down and act as statues. If they run or scream, it means their death. But the camp is vast. You can't protect everyone. The slaughter continues unabated. At last, as more of the refugees flee for the cover of the lost city ruins, the beast strays too close to Eren Keep. The invisible barrier crackles, and suddenly, alive with a pale blue energy, fierce tendrils of power skitter in all directions like crackling spreading through glass, and the beast shrieks in agony. Chastened, it swoops away, finally abandoning its banquet. A terrible silence falls, broken by the occasional sob. At long last, it's over. Help the survivors. You wander the camp, reuniting separated families and comforting the bereaved. Finally, once you're so exhausted that you can barely stand, you stumble back to your tent and fall into a dreamless slumber. The morning air is crisp. The sun shines on devastation. Survivors wander the camp, some clearing away bodies, others drifting aimlessly. Tattered tents, extinguished fires, bloodless corpses scattered the camp like autumn leaves. As you're surveying the carnage, a woman in a patchwork shawl hurries towards you, her face pinched and gaunt. She's dragging a small girl by the hand. I don't know if you remember us, Smith, but you kept me and my little Idina safe last night. Without you, I don't know what we would have done. She presses a few coins into your palm. I don't have much. This is all I can give. I can't accept this. With some difficulty, you manage to convince the woman that you don't want to take her pitiful, small saving. Luck be with you, Smith. Thank you so much again. As she hobbles away, her young child stumbles along beside her. You can't help but to feel a surge of pride. You are now inspired. Search for the Monders. You stop short when you arrive at their tent. The iron pot has been knocked over. The fire has burnt itself out. The tent itself is a tattered wreck soaked in blood and gore. The beast ripped the tent apart and then ripped apart those within. There's more than one body, but they're too badly mangled to tell apart. A torn remnant of old Gaida's pattern dress flutters in the breeze. Shlodo is nowhere to be seen. You turn away. Look for Shev. You find her standing outside her tent, clutching her forearms, eyes fixed on the middle distance where the creature had vanished. She doesn't notice your presence. The Vulgoth only feeds once every few months. It won't be back tonight. She jumps, startled, and then offers you a wan smile. You're telling me that thing might be coming back in a couple months? That's not as comforting as you might seem to think. I better get into Eren Keep soon. We're sitting ducks out here, praying, waiting to be picked off. You alright? Lucky to be alive, I guess. It's gone, don't worry. I hope you're right. She drops her gaze finally from the sky. Did you lose anyone you knew? Yes, the Monders family were killed. Oh, how terrible. I mean, I didn't know them, but that's awful. She falls silent for a respectful moment, then sighs. Thanks for checking in on me. There's a lot of hurt people out there. I'm going to see if I can help. As you make your way back to your tent, you spy a growing crowd forming around the outer gates. Watch from afar. A mob has formed at the gate, shouting at the guards. It's a volatile situation, born of grief and rage and fear. Survivors of the attack voice a common complaint. The guards did nothing to stop the massacre. But really, their complaint was more basic. They are still stranded outside the city, with no reprieve in sight. You suspect the guards would happily retreat to their stone parapets. But the wagons are rolling in. The gates need to be opened. Watch the disaster unfold. Guards fan out from the gate, trying to keep the shouting refugees at bay with their shields. Back. Get back. But the usual tactics won't work today. One by one, the refugees draw swords, sharp blades glittering in the morning light. You recognize your own handiwork. Drop the weapons, or... The rest of the watchman's words are lost in a gurgle as someone thrusts a blade through his throat. The mob surges. The guards retreat, shouting for reinforcements, while the wagon is toppled on its side and set aflame. Looters pull crates from the burning wreckage, yelling in triumph. Head back to your tent. You beat a hasty retreat as more and more guards pour out of the gate, swords drawn, ready to enact bloody revenge on any applicant foolish enough to have lingered. So, we have concluded the Steal from the Forge. We found the peddler, and the aftermath of the Vulgoth slaughter. If we can make it into the keep, we'll tell Lucas about Shev, and the guards won't let you through the gate without proving that we can make swords. So we are currently inspired, meaning that we earn more XP and increases our diplomacy. But we're also exhausted from helping others, reducing our action points and finesse. So we have diplomacy 1, knowledge 3, and finesse -1. We have 2 things to break down. And not a lot of action points for contracts. So I think we'll take a look. We've got tools and helmet, a gold pendant, mystery, wagon wheels, silver, wood, horseshoe, steel. So I think I'm going to try to do Jacques' contract here. So we're going to break down the old tools and take the contract. So you just want something medium short length and sharp with alabaster pigment, two-handed with a regular point. You think I should have walked up and said, "Hey, guard, how do you like my sword now?" I mean, I don't think the guard could answer. He's dead. Or at least that first one. Alright, so you want sharp. So I'm going to do this quickly because they're not asking for much. But I will use curvature for the first time. So let's curve the front of the blade up, kind of like katana. Or something like that. Just a slight curve. And then, if they're only asking for 2 sharpness, let's also give it a, like, katana edge. Only sharpening one side of the blade. Alright. A regular point. So this is more like a die katana if it's a two-hander. Oh, for the point, I'm gonna... Yeah, let's do both sides, which is a little un-katana-like, but I wasn't actually trying to make a katana. I'm making, obviously, what Jacques wants. So that's done for the blade. For the hilt, we'll keep it very light and simple. Trying to keep our costs down. And then, here's some of the other weird attachments that we can add, so we can, like, add nails to it and stuff like that, right? I mean, not that I'm planning on it, but you have a lot of control here if you want to take it. Like adding bolts and the like, or chain elements, if you want, like, chain blades. I mean, you can get kind of fantastical if you'd like. Obviously, there's magic and fantasy in this game. So for two-hander, they're asking for alabaster dies. So let's do a very long... a narrow grip. And bring it to a two-hander. Perfect. And then we'll do smooth alabaster cow leather at very low polish. Perfect. Then at the back, we'll give it a small twisted steel, and we'll rotate this there. Perfect. With a tiny little end cap. Actually, we'll put a peen on it. Perfect. And then I don't really like how the handle juts out like this. Maybe we can do something to fix that. Let's get rid of this one. Put something a little wider. And then scale it up. There we go. Very interesting looking blade for sure. And I'll call it the Jacques' Daikatana. Alright, we've got one action point left, and I'm going to spend it on salvaging horseshoes. Trying to get our steel back up, because we're basically out of steel. And I have one more horseshoe to maybe salvage tomorrow, and then some wood stuff to salvage as well. But we're very low on materials. We have a bunch of coin that we could buy stuff from, but I'd rather salvage if we can. Before tonight, I'm going to head over to the scrap peddler and see if he has any... Yes, he does. He has old tools to buy. Perfect. And as much as I'd like to buy the indigo, because that's a really nice color, I don't really have the coin for it, so I'm not going to. End the day. Thank you for tuning in to Bladesong, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhodamont.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhodamont.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow blacksmiths.